What's up, dwellers of the internet? Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite horror characters in the horror genre, themed in films, changed cinema forever, because the very essence of him is what permeates and comes from the most hellish and crazy pits of our nightmares. That's Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street. I love that character.
He's spooky.
He's very spooky, and he's got a burnt face.
And I'm here for this one.
My brother's here to talk to me, or talk with me about this creature, this person, this man-made, not man-made.
Man-made monstrosity.
No, man turned monster.
Ah, yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
I'm also playing Fortnite.
He's also playing Fortnite, which is not a bad game.
It's okay.
It's alright.
It could be better.
So Freddy Krueger, my first experience with him was when I was 5 years old. I was 5 years old and I was at my dad's house, and my uncle, God bless his soul, used to come into my brother and I's room late at night, and he didn't do what it sounds like I'm gonna say he did. He came into the room and he would wake us up and he would bring us out into the living room and lay out blankets and make popcorn and put on a horror film for us. This is how he got away with showing us horror flicks when we weren't allowed to see them, because this was during a time when we were restricted from watching that kind of a thing. But he, in his mind, he thought not only could he be the cool uncle if he did something like that, but he also thought that it was unreasonable for us to not be able to watch horror films. So,
which, if you've ever seen Fuck Censorship, you know how we feel about that.
Exactly. But we're sitting out here, we're laying down, we're eating the popcorn, and he throws on Nightmare on Elm Street, and we had no idea what it was, my brother and I.
Not me.
Not him. This is another brother, one who's closer to my age. He was 3 at the time. I was 5. So we're sitting there watching Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's one of the craziest and scariest things I've ever seen in my fucking life. So that was the beginning, I think, of the origin of my interpretation of this character as an icon, as a being that could be not only respected but feared in the genre and as a character in general. He just became a staple character, as far as iconic horror villains are concerned. He got up there first. I think I had first exposure to him before even to Jason or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface or Chucky or any of that. I saw Freddy first, and if I had to pick, he's got to be my number one. He's got to be my favorite.
It's because he's terrifying.
It's because the entire mythos of the character is based on fear. It is. That's where he's getting his power from.
Yeah, it's true.
He gets into your psyche. He's able to get into your mind, and he knows what scares you the most. And that's what gives him his power, is the children of Elm Street's fear of him, which makes him grow stronger, along with their souls after he's killed them.
Oh yeah, of course.
Cool stuff, man. He gets stronger the more he kills. He gets, I guess, more able to manipulate you and the dream world around you. The more fear you have, and the more souls he has absorbed, which is cool. I mean, he goes from like a terrifying entity based on fear to like being, I guess in the later films, not exactly a comedy villain, but more. He's a little bit more egocentric, and he develops more of a I guess rock star, you could say, type of personality. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I could see that coming out of a description of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, he became like a pop culture figure, but in the worst way possible, or in the most horrific way possible.
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
He was like the cool guy, but scary.
The scary cool guy.
Yeah. He had become,
So I almost got fucked.
Yeah, that was beautiful. You killed him, though. You gotta take his weaponry.
That was fucking scary. Okay.
So naturally I was attracted to this villain, and he, buried his way into my psyche as just being this iconic horror villain, and What was your first encounter with Freddy Krueger? When did that happen?
Honestly, I think it was you. I think you were the first.
Was I the one who introduced you to the film?
Yeah, one of my earliest memories is of Freddy Krueger, not just like in general, is the scene in, I believe it's 3, when the tricycle comes out into the girl's room.
Oh yeah, into Kristen's room in the mental institution.
Yeah, and I believe that scene was in the trailer for the movie.
It wasn't the same scene. It was a different scene.
But it
was.
But it had the tricycle in it.
It had the tricycle coming into a room.
And then Freddy's hand popped out of the wooden popsicle stick house.
Exactly. That's the one that Kristen created.
And that trailer, I think, is my first memory of Freddy Krueger in general.
Anything Freddy Krueger related.
And I believe you showed it to me. I think you were watching the 3rd movie.
Yeah.
And one of the bonus features on the DVD was like,
that's right,
a trailer for it.
Yeah, one of the bonus features on the DVD was that you could go back and watch the trailers, and that was one of the trailers. And those things were fucking scary, dude. They wanted, like, that was, I think, the whole tricycle scene coupled with the moaning of a dying child in that scene specifically is one of the most frightening in all of Nightmare on Elm Street. Or just, one of the most eerie and one of the most, not the kind of fear that comes from a jump scare, but the kind of fear that comes from, your psychology and what what kind of fear your thoughts can bring about, like the, shivers running down your spine kind of fear, the bone-chilling kind of fear.
And that's one of the worst things about Freddy Krueger and the Nightmare on Elm Street, like, saga, is that obviously Freddy is a terrifying villain, but he's only powerful if you make him powerful and be afraid of him.
Exactly.
Which, if you've ever thought about trying to control your fear, it's possible. It's definitely doable. You can make yourself not afraid of something.
Oh yeah, everybody can say that.
But it's also extremely difficult, especially for, like, the age that the people that they are.
Yeah, teenagers.
Yeah,
just young people in general,
And if a child is watching this movie, which, I mean, it's not really who it's intended for, but for someone to see a movie like that as a child, knowing that they can't really control their fear, has got to be one of the most terrifying things.
Yeah, it can just be, it can leave psychological scars, or at least permeate itself into your memory, which is what it did for me as a kid. I just knew that, of course, Freddy's the ultimate villain, because anything you're afraid of, he can make real and he can become a part of, and that he could take advantage of. So it doesn't matter what it is, if it's buried in your psyche, if you're afraid of it. It's like the purple's coming for you. Oh shit.
Oh god.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, Freddy is the purple.
the wave of purple.
Dude, it's coming for me. I'm not gonna make
buddy,
it.
No, you're heading to the white. You're almost there.
I'm not gonna make it. I'm not fast enough.
You can cross the border.
No, I'm not fast enough. It's coming up on me, dude.
Oh god, you're right. It is catching up on you. You better run, man. Run for the border.
Oh my god. No.
Andale.
Nathan, I'm gonna die. I'm really gonna die.
Andale pues. Oh shit. Oh no.
I'm in the store.
Oh no, you've got to get out. Dude, it's taking away your life. You're gonna be fucked in a minute here. Oh, so close. Nice. Oh, scary situation.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. Anyways, that's why Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is my favorite, is because not only in that film is the fear portion of, what Freddy can influence showcased the most through these kids, but it's exemplified with them being put in a mental institution. They not only are they succumbing,
at least the third one.
Yeah, in the third one. And not only are they like succumbing to their fears that are being brought about by this, very real threat, but nobody will believe them, and they all think that they are having a group delusional psychosis. So it's just getting perpetuated by these adults who not only don't understand what they're going through completely, but they don't believe them, and they have to, grasp at straws and seem like they're even crazier for going out of their way to find these people who can, just remotely trust them. It's kind of a, they're put in a desperate situation, and it makes the fear that much more real.
And that's always one of the things
palpable.
that scared me the most too, was the fact that nobody believed them. Nobody understood what they were going through.
Yeah.
And
there's nobody they can run to.
In the first movie, they have Nancy's mom, who knows of Freddy Kruger, but not of his nightmare form. And in the reality, she knows he's a threat, but not in the real way that Nancy is experiencing.
She thought. I mean, I was always under the impression that she thought Nancy had just looked up information about him or had gotten exposure to him, and was having,
Nightmares.
like nightmares and delusions about him because of the person he was. Maybe like she had repressed memories of him, like possibly molesting her or something crazy like that in the past. But she never took the claim that Nancy was making, that he was in her dreams, to be anything real. She was, trying to dismiss that as much as possible. And she even goes as far as to show her the facts of the situation. Once it gets escalated enough, she shows her the glove that she keeps in the furnace. And now that I get a chance to mention it, that scene is fucking iconic. That is one of the best scenes in the entirety of the franchise, I think.
Oh yeah, when she pulls out the glove, it's like...
It makes it real. I mean, it brings it a little bit more into the real world, and it shows that, yeah, these kids' parents are fucking crazy too, and this mom especially is calmly out of her mind, you know what I mean? Just like, she's trying to put her daughter to sleep, but showing her and trying to comfort her with the fact that she has murdered a psychopath in the past. It's kind of crazy. It's fucking insane is what it is. It makes you feel crazy when you're watching it, you know what I mean?
Because you empathize. You empathize for Nancy and the fact that nobody believes her. And it's just, especially by the end when it's only her and everybody else has died, so anybody who could have believed her is now gone, and she has no one to turn to.
Her poor boyfriend Johnny Depp ends up getting sucked into the bed.
Yeah.
And then
so it brings this like whole new element to it.
This whole other angle to the the fear that he's bringing to you. It's not I think I think there's a perfect line in Freddy vs. Jason that talks about this, where they're talking about Freddy as a threat. I think I forget who mentions it. It might be Lori or it might be her boyfriend. I'm not sure. Somebody says, Somebody says there's no use running from this man. He is with us in our dreams. He's with us in our sleep, or something to that effect, which I think just makes it that much worse, is the fact that you could run anywhere you want. You could leave Springfield, you can leave Elm Street, but Freddy will be there, because once you have the memory of him, once you have a fear of him, if you fall asleep, you're not going to be able to escape him. It doesn't matter. There's no boundaries you can try to get to try to escape him.
That's another thing that I want to touch on, is that in the day, it's alright. Like, you can... If you can stay awake through the day.
Yeah, like, assuming you haven't been staying up all night for 3 days straight and you're taking caffeine pills and shit.
In the day, it's okay. But everybody sleeps.
Everybody has to sleep.
And
eventually your body's going to shut down and make you sleep, So, that's the threat, is that... The threat is imminent, is what you're trying to say.
He will get you, And that's what's so scary.
You're going to have to go into that dream world, and you're going to have to fight your fear, and you're going to have to hope that you can escape him for one more night, you know what I mean? It's constant. It's driving you crazy. And a lack of sleep only makes you seem that much more crazy, and people come up with that as an excuse. And I think that's another whole that's a whole other psychological angle to it. Is people, people antagonizing you and just what's the word? Fucking patronizing you, or they're saying like, you need some fucking sleep, you need to get some rest. That's why you're acting so crazy right now, because you haven't slept. And it's like, no, fuck you, I'm gonna die.
I think
I mean?
just one of the things that I have to say is that Wes Craven, he was a genius, you know?
Yes, most definitely. Wes Craven, rest in peace. Good man. He knew what people were scared of, and he was able to bring A Nightmare on Elm Street back from the brink of Freddy becoming a little bit too comical of a character with New Nightmare. Once he got the script in his hand again, once he had control of the character again, they asked him to do one, and he got extremely meta with it and creative again, and his goal was to make Freddy nothing but scary again, and it worked.
That movie was
wonderful.
That movie was horrifying.
Yeah, that one's pretty psychologically traumatizing as well. So that's a great film.
Yeah, I have to.
And so is Freddy vs. Jason. It might not be the scariest of any of the films, but it definitely, it's like the Freddy vs. Jason is like the victory lap for both of those characters. Pretty much saying like, all right, we both have these legacies that we've left. We have generations of terrified children in our wake, and terrified adults that were once those children that are now showing the films to their children. And now we're gonna have a big old crazy ass battle, and it's gonna be cool. And
we'll finally determine who is better,
Yeah, and that film is all of those things, and it accomplishes the goals it sets out to achieve.
And it can be kind of cheesy at times, but I still enjoy.
It can be, but I don't think it detracts from the characters. That's the thing. Like, Freddy has his scenes where he's taking people into the nightmare world, and he looks fucking terrifying.
Or when he takes fucking Jason into his own nightmare.
Yeah, and he's able to get into Jason's head, and they have all these advantages that they pull over one another, and it's great.
Yeah, it's definitely a good movie, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I like and I know a lot of people don't like the whole Alice arc where she's supposed to be like Alice in Wonderland, but I'm a fan. I like the fact that she is supposed to be sort of the antithesis character to Freddy. Besides Nancy, she's a character that is able to combat him in the dream world, being the so-called dream master type of thing. A lot of people weren't a fan of that, but I like her as a character. I think she works. Kristen is better though.
I mean, I enjoy all the films, but
yeah.
I don't think anything can really top Nancy for me. Just
Because,
because.
well, of course, fucking Nancy's the best.
She's the most badass.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
She figures it out almost immediately that if you remove the fear, you can beat Freddy, and she combats him for years before she succumbs to him in the third one. And she leads a whole new generation of children to try to fight him after she becomes the sole survivor of Elm Street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's an awesome character.
She's truly an iconic character, I'd say.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of Jesse.
What are you, some kind of homophobe?
Let me be perfectly clear. I do like that movie, but it's very hard for me to watch it unironically.
God, it's so gay.
My enjoyment of that movie comes from pure irony. Okay, like, I watch it, and the dude is screaming like a girl the whole time, and it's hysterical. That's like,
fuck.
And Freddy does have cool scenes where he rips the skin off his head and shows his brain, and he's like, I've got the body, or no, you've got the body, I've got the brain, and that's a whole cool situation. But
definitely,
it's overall the film can't escape itself comedy-wise, just because it's so obviously gay. And it's so funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's definitely something.
Yeah,
that movie.
In the end of the film, he gets taken over by Freddy.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be an allegory for his gayness taking over him. And his girlfriend has to save him, the girl, because she's like, no, you're straight, you like me. So
Come on, Jesse.
there's that whole fucked up situation. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street has gone down some interesting routes in the past.
The franchise as a whole has done a lot.
Yeah.
And it's gone in many different directions. But personally, I don't think that any of them were really bad.
No, I don't think so either.
I
They're
think
good films.
even when they took a few chances and made it something different than what it used to be,
I mean,
it never felt like forced or like horrible, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they get crazy religious in the later ones, like in Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Yeah.
The fifth one especially, because there's all this religious symbolism going on with his child and Alice's child, and about how they're fighting for him, and how his mother is a nun, and
she
how
was raped by 100 men.
Yeah, he's the son of 100 maniacs, which is a fitting name for him. I think that that's cool. Everything that builds upon Freddy's origin story and him as a character is cool, and I love all of that. It establishes him as a terrifying individual, and as an iconic villain, it's cool to learn the backstory and how he came to be the person that he is.
And the thing when they reveal his backstory, a lot of times people complain about learning too much about the villain because it makes them less frightening.
Yeah, I can understand
but
that.
Freddy, if anything, it only makes him more frightening.
Yeah, you learn that
when you learn that how insane he is.
Yeah, not only is he the son of 100 maniacs, but he was disturbed from childhood. He was passed around from foster home to foster home with a bunch of crazy drunken parents, and he was made fun of and bullied in school his entire life. He was killing hamsters and shit, disturbing his teachers, and then he eventually becomes insane. He kills, I'm assuming, a few of his foster parents. At least one of them that we know of.
Yeah.
He does kill, who beat him. Shout out to Alice Cooper, that guy. He did very well as Freddy's father. That was cool. And he eventually becomes a child molester and a child murderer, and he becomes the Springwood Slasher, another fitting nickname for him, which is just so cool. Every nickname that they come up with for this guy and the canonicity of the character is just awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's it makes him cool.
And it always builds him up to be what he actually is. And that's why it's so hard when nobody believes that he's back and that he's killing again.
He takes the power of the dream demons. If you've seen Nightmare on Elm Street 6, where he has to go up against his daughter and all that, which I think is a cool arc.
Definitely. It's definitely the whole franchise is just intriguing, to say the least.
Yeah, it's all very interesting and intriguing. At the very least, it goes down some crazy and winding roads, but
because even if you're not into horror movies, the plot is like...
Yeah, you could get into the plot. You could get into Freddy as a character, which many people do. I know plenty of people that I've talked to where they're like, yeah, Freddy's not scary to me, but he's cool as shit, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And the widest held opinion, I think, generally, is that the first one is scary, and the rest are just, they sort of follow him as like a comic book kind of character.
Yeah. I could get behind that.
Yeah, which is, it's an interesting position to take, and I don't necessarily disagree with that completely, you know what I mean? So, Freddy Krueger is just a very awesome character.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Well, that's about all I gotta say about him.
Yeah,
I think we're done for this episode.
All I know is he scared the fuck out of me.
Scares the hell out of our aunt, for that matter.
Oh yeah. Well, her name is Nancy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you blame her?
I don't. I absolutely do not. She was afraid of him back in the 80s when, like, he was fresh.
Yeah.
Fucking terrifying. Tons of people. Spooky Nightmare Freddy. Very cool. And not only was I Freddy for Halloween at some point and scared the shit out of her, but then you hit her with a double whammy and you did it
Yeah,
recently.
yeah. Last Halloween, I dressed up as Freddy.
So we've both done that to her.
Yeah.
Unceremoniously, just not giving a fuck about her fear.
It's pretty funny.
Pretty hysterical to me, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Ah!